little bit early for it.
Today we're drinking Villiera Tradition Brut. It's a non-vintage Cap Classique. We've been producing it since 1984, and it's a blend of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and a little bit of Pinot Meunier.
The history of Villiera dates back prior to the Griers arriving here. The cellar was actually built in 1941, and that time it was owned by a family, the Villiers. So that's where the name comes from. There's certain grape varieties and styles of wine that do really well here. For example, Cap Classique. So that is definitely a focus point from Villiera.
How do you make Cap Classique?
So you make sort of, the first process is to make a normal still wine, but you pick the grapes a little bit earlier. We normally pick around 18, 19 bulling, which is a sugar level. And that's just to keep freshness and get a nice high acidity. And then we'll make up the different blends. And then we'll add sugar and yeast back to the wine, and then we'll bottle it again under crown cap. And that second fermentation that happens in the bottle, that's what gives you your natural bubble. So we will always say in the Cap Classique industry, we're always chasing the perfect bubble, because that's the most important part and what differentiates method Cap Classique, if I can put it like that, the bottle fermented way, from sparkling wine. Because the bubble is way smaller, finer, more elegant compared to sparkling wine, which is carbonated. And that's why Cap Classique is always a little bit more higher priced, and it is because of that second process that happens.
Sustainability has been incredibly important. So we're involved in schooling, in primary health through the Pebbles project on the farm. Then in 2010 we put in the biggest roof-mounted solar installation in South Africa. We have to do rainwater harvesting, find all the water that we can and not waste any of it. On the vineyard side, we stop cultivating those vineyards. The vineyards actually become a sink then for carbon dioxide. You put it back into the ground. This is Ramnas, here's Turksnal. Here we got wild oats. This one here is steerkrust. You can see as it gets flattened what a beautiful mulch it forms on the ground. So this keeps the soil cool, it develops organic material in the ground, and it retains moisture. We worked with an Italian company called Simon Xander, and for 9 years they've been training our staff on pruning and suckering. This system of pruning is called branching. So we retain the branches on the vine, and we never cut these branches back and make big pruning wounds, which then allow trunk diseases to penetrate the vine and kill the vine off. So by doing that, we also retain the chronological order, and in that way, we retain the longevity of the vineyards. And I'll show you how we do that, starting over here. When we prune a vineyard, the bearer is 1-year-old wood, so these are the canes from last year, sitting on the wood of the previous year. So it's 1-year-old wood on 2-year-old wood. So we prune, trying to retain spare wood. So when we cut, the wound here is about 1 centimeter. So we would leave 1.5 or 2 centimeters of wood here that can dry back without affecting the sap flow in this point here. Then we would cut 2 eyes like that, and we finished. We haven't planted any new vineyards in 20 years. We've got some vineyards that are 45 years old. Every time you plow a vineyard, there's a massive amount of diesel used. There's a lot of organic material that's released. New drainage systems need to go in. New poles must go in. New wires must go in. There's an environmental cost every time you replant something. So if we can get to where we're keeping those vineyards for 100 years again, well, you've saved replanting 5 times. In 2010, we realized that we had quite a big story to tell. And with 2 neighbors that had land that wasn't suitable for cultivation, we decided to set aside wildlife sanctuaries. And we introduced eland, giraffe, zebra, kudu, black wildebeest, bontebok, springbuck, bush pigs, steenbok, duiker, graysbok, and numerous other little animals. And one of the things that these African animals need is indigenous forest. So we started planting trees, and we thought, if we want to negate the emissions from our cellar, for 2,000 tons of grapes, we would need 10,000 big trees. So we planted 10,000 trees in the first year, and it was so easy, we just kept going. Our staff grow the little trees in the townships. When they're less than a year old, we plant them out. We're well over 100,000 trees now, and 32 hectares of indigenous forest, which you can see here all around me. We've suddenly got thousands of chameleons again. We got bird species here that we never had. So it's a win-win situation, and it's a feel-good thing as well.
So the lucky thing, I learned a lot about your family farm in sustainability. It's quite something to be proud of. And although this doesn't have old vines in it yet, eh?
No, not at this stage. In about 5 years' time, some of the grapes that we'll use in the tradition will be old vines. The vines would have been 35 years and older. But the reason why I chose the tradition is because it's part of the history of the farm when it started, and when Simon and Jeff and Kathy them started the whole journey of sustainability. This one actually was part of that journey, and that's the reason for us showcasing tradition today.
Hi, I'm Simon,
I'm Xander.
and this is our postcard from a vine. Cheers.